Hello and welcome to the American Cinema Foundation Movie Podcast. I am your host, Titus, and today I am going to be doing a special kind of episode because I get to talk to one of the artists with whose work I grew up. I'm talking to David Zucker today. We will be talking about comedy from the 80s onwards. David is still working and he'll talk to us about some of his projects, and he is also teaching comedy. Comedy has largely disappeared in Hollywood. We'll get to talk about that as well. And so maybe learning and also going back to 80s favorites, and then I guess 90s favorites also, this is how I grew up, would be not only a breath of fresh air, but some kind of inspiration about how to make people laugh, how to take scenes, stories, characters, and get them to show each other up, I suppose, generate a certain kind of surprise and show us the sorts of things that are stiff, formal, maybe, so to speak, even boring in the way we tell stories, in the way we set characters up for their roles that eventually become tropes and which therefore become ripe for subversion, ripe for send up. And I think this is where I started with the Zaz movies, the Zucker Abraham Zucker movies of the 80s, the Naked Gun movies, or I think my favorite would be Top Secret, the Val Kilmer's debut, and on and on. Or, I love Danny DeVito. So Ruthless People was a great, great, funny thing when I was a kid. And all of them had this quality, a lively dialogue, slapstick, a lot of physical comedy, a lot of, clowning around, sometimes literally, like Judge Reinhold in Ruthless People. All of these things turned out to prepare me to fall in love when I grew up with, say, Preston Sturges or Howard Hawks or all of these great romantic, but not always romantic comedy artists of the 30s, 40s. All of these, you watching Zaz movies, then I thought of William Powell in Love Crazy, or all of these funny movies with the dog, the Nick and Nora Thin Man comedies. Any number of things from old Hollywood seem to somehow come back with David's movies. I should say your movies. But also at the same time, a kind of send up of all of the genres of the late mid-century. Obviously, the airplane disaster movies, police movies, any number of things that were ripe for mockery, for their self-seriousness, that somehow this liberated, I guess, a lot of us. And since comedy, as I said, has largely disappeared, it's much more obvious now how much we were given, how rich the 80s were in that regard, how much fun, and hopeful in a certain way that there's something about comedy. It's a happy end. Things surprise you one damn thing after another, but in the end, it's kind of rewarding as well. So there are all of these different things to talk about. David, thank you very much for joining me, first of all. You're coming to me from California, from LA with your coffee. I am here in Central Europe since I'm lecturing with my cocktail. So
Well,
this
this
will
is
be
actually all vodka. I start drinking at
like
10.
hit it hard early. But we're going with coffee and cocktails, not vodka and cocktails. We're not from the
Yeah,
vodka here.
that's
So
nice.
thank you very much for joining me. I'm very glad to be able to talk to you about this. And I think you could say that you need no introduction, but on the other hand, you could brag a little. You have achieved quite a
Yeah, why
bit,
don't we
and
brag a little?
like
I invented a
social
genre,
media
made
is
billions for the
today still
studios.
full.
Yeah,
Like
uh,
your movies are now memes, your jokes are now memes, and they still are full of social media. There are people who weren't born then, of course, 21st century kids still find these things very funny and spread them on social media. So, as I said, brag a little. Tell us a bit about how you got into, the Kentucky Fried Movie and onwards with
well,
your
we were,
career.
back in the 60s, we were class clowns and we had a very funny high school actually. But we were Jim and Jerry and I decided to pursue it as a career. And after college, we borrowed some videotape decks. There was no cell phones, there was no nothing, no video. So we were able to borrow some equipment and we started a small theater called Kentucky Fried Theater, which we did in Wisconsin for a year. And then we moved it out to LA and we did a show in at the Kentucky Fried Theater in LA on Pico Boulevard, and our first show was called My Nose. So just so our listing in the LA Times would be My Nose Runs Continuously. So this is how we didn't have a publicity budget, so we kind of used a little judo for that, and then that led to Kentucky Fried Movie, and then we were able to do what we really wanted to do, which was Airplane.
Yeah, and once you got to that, all of these sorts of things came together. A lot of wordplay that again you don't see that much wordplay anymore in movies or in comedies.
Right, but we got it from the Marx Brothers. We love the Marx Brothers, and slapstick from Woody Allen and Mel Brooks. And I think we took that and we just, I think that we put it into the next level because we weren't using comedians. And so I think that's the breakthrough that Airplane had, because we were big fans of serious movies, not so much comedies. Although we did like Mel Brooks and Woody Allen and the Marx Brothers, I think what we really thought was funny was serious B movies, black and white movies.
Yeah, I think that's obviously, Leslie Nielsen, people have forgotten, so to speak, but he used to be a serious actor. He
He was
was
a serious actor
very
for 25 years. And when we saw when we saw Zero Hour, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that was a 1957 black and white airliner in trouble movie with the same plot. We copied the plot. We actually bought the rights to it. And we put Leslie Nielsen in as the doctor, Robert Stack in as the air controller. So we just, and it was easy for us, not so easy for other people if they don't. Well, after a number of years, Jerry and Jim and I evolved a set of rules about doing our style of spoof. And of course, the 15th rule is there are no rules, but we use that. So this stuff, it's not easy to do. It may look easy. They tried to do a Naked Gun 4 and they didn't know how to do it. So it flopped and destroyed the franchise. But Paramount has very wisely given the Scary Movie franchise back to the Wayans brothers, and these guys are really
very funny,
talented
very practiced,
and they're
again,
original.
professionals.
They know what they're doing. And I just saw the trailer, so I've been out trying to promote this trailer because I think comedy can come back to the theaters. You're saying how there's no comedy in theaters. You're right. There's no comedy in theaters, but hopefully the Wayans brothers will bring it back with Scary Movie 6.
Yeah, that's again like, something. Maybe that was the first time this kind of comedy, so to speak, was of age with me. I was a teenager. I must have been already 13, 14.
Right. And I think
Uh,
people
but
understand when somebody comes up with something original. I took over the Scary Movie franchise, did 3 and 4, but it was my original idea, and I did it PG-13. It just broadened the audience, and but didn't take anything away from what the Wayans did. And the Wayans originated it; they were great. But we did Scary Movie 3 and 4 were huge hits, and commercial and critical.
yeah, again, a send up of this entire horror genre
Oh,
and
right, yeah. Which I
from
didn't think of doing. It was the Wayans who thought of, oh, you can spoof horror movies. So because I don't really like horror movies, so this would not have been my idea. But
yeah,
once we had, we spoofed Signs in the Ring and
yeah,
War of the
exactly.
Worlds and other movies in 4. And I had to see those movies. But once I saw those movies, I got how to do it. Again, using the rules, and because the people who did Naked Gun 4 did not know the rules, I thought, people should know how to do this. You can't just be a fanboy and think you can do one of these movies. The Wayans are not fanboys, they're the real deal. They actually create stuff. So I created this comedy course called Master Crash, and you can get to it by uh, going to mastercrash.com, and it's a free community. And there's other things that you can pay for in it, but it's a free community, and I interact, live with the students. So, if anybody wants to actually talk to me, I mean, my own family won't, but I think anybody signing up for this course could.
Yeah, so there's a kind of crash course in comedy from
Yeah.
one of the masters of the popular genre. It's just
Yeah. I
uh,
mean, you
stuff that
can't you
endures.
can't you can't teach anybody to be funny, but if somebody is funny already and has the talent to write and make jokes, I think we could save them a lot of pitfalls and a lot of wasted time making dumb mistakes. So that's what this course is.
Yeah, and I think how did you get from airplane to figuring out these rules, and
Oh, we
how
way be,
did it change your writing?
way
Tell us
before
about your
we did
movies.
way before we did Airplane, we did as I mentioned, we did the show in Madison, Wisconsin for a year, Kentucky Fried Theater, moved it out to LA, and we opened the show in 1972, and a friend of ours from Madison who had become a comedy writer in LA said, your show's great, but in that one sketch you were doing a joke on a joke, and we said, what? And he explained what a joke on a joke was. We had never known that there were terms or rules. It was just, we came fresh out of Wisconsin. It was anything goes. And so that became the first rule. And then we evolved 14 more. And that's essentially what the course is. And so we've learned from our own mistakes. And they're not only joke rules, they're rules about doing movies. And we learned over the course of decades doing comedies that how important it is to have a character for your main for the lead actors and actresses. They have to have characters. They have to have somebody who has a kind of an emotional problem. And it can't be just Bob Hayes flying down the plane. It's got to be he had PTSD, and that's important. And we learned this over the years.
And how, so that's, on the side of character. How about on the side of plot? As you said, for Airplane, you just took over a plot and then
Right.
turned it
Well,
into one
y-
damn thing happening after another.
yeah. Well, my brother Jerry always summarized plots in movies as first you get your hero up the tree, and in the second act you throw stones at him, and in the third act you get him down. And that's basically the plot. You got to get your hero or heroine into a predicament, into trouble, and the audience has to root for this character. And then in the course of the 80 minutes of the movie, which it shouldn't really be more than 80 minutes. I mean, if you're doing good comedy, people get exhausted if they're laughing, if it's working. Uh, I think in the case of Naked Gun 4, they could have gone for 3 hours because it was, uh, they weren't exhausted
Yeah.
from laughing.
So that's another thing that I wanted to ask, since in a way it's also a series of sketches. You're in the cockpit, you're back with the people sitting in their seats. In the case of Airplane, you
Right.
switch in between these things. Now it's the flight attendants, all of these different things you can cut in between, but you also have to sequence them in this way. And thinking in preparation for this conversation about Airplane, I thought of an old Henny Youngman line from the days of the Borscht Belt and all of these
Right.
funny comedians in the Catskills that said that not everything has to be that funny, but if you can get them laughing once and then keep hitting them, you generate momentum, and now they just
Oh,
want to laugh and they can't stop it anymore. And then you get to this, as you were saying, that you have them with you and actually you eventually exhaust them. So they need the relief. They needed to
right.
stop.
It is so true. And that's where everybody asks us where our pace came from because Airplane is joke, joke, joke. They don't really notice that there also is a plot and character, but it's crammed with jokes. And that's because in our stage show, we were the actors and we never wanted to be up on stage during long silences. And as you said, it's kind of like a flywheel. It's momentum. Once you get an audience laughing, it's easier to keep them laughing than to start them up all over again. So Henning Youngman was absolutely right. He had the famous joke, "Take my wife, please."
And he had this violin.
And his
The
violent,
movies.
yeah. And
Ah,
Jack Benny. I mean,
yes.
I think I was more aware of the Marx Brothers, I think, than the stand-ups. I mean, I think Bob Hope was funny and a lot of these guys, but I was probably not as much of a fan of Jerry Lewis or the Abbott and Costello. But those guys were funny, and Abbott and Costello did this famous "Who's on First"
Yeah.
routine, and we do that in the original Police Squad.
Yep.
And in Airplane, where they go over Roger, Roger, oh, this
Yes.
wordplay and the misunderstanding. So I think we borrowed from the classic comics.
Yeah, a long tradition, as you're saying, from vaudeville, Marx Brothers hit the
Right.
screen,
Yeah.
Cliff Notes, or Jack
It
Benny,
all, yeah,
then it
it
gets to
all
TV,
contributes.
then it gets to the movies again, and so in that sense, there was a good century and a bit more of comedy
And
that
they're
was
and they're
used
also
in
they're
between these
people,
genres.
yeah, they're people who came after us who are taking our kind of comedy in advancing it. Like I said, mentioned the Wayans
Yeah, you
brothers,
mentioned the Wayans brothers.
Mike Myers with the Austin Powers movies,
Yeah,
Matt Stone and Trey Parker with South Park,
yeah, and you
and
worked with them on basketball, right?
and
Basketball.
basketball. Yeah, they're great. They're really talented and original. I just I admire originality. So you get that with South Park and the Impractical Jokers. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're so funny. That's what makes me laugh is they're on True TV. Impractical Jokers, wonderful.
I'll take a
I
look.
can only watch like 15 minutes of it at a time. I am literally choking with laughter.
So you're not just a comedian, but you love to laugh.
I
Uh,
love to laugh. Yeah, and my job is fun. If we're doing our job right, we're making jokes and we're laughing.
but you had to translate this all into cinema, work with the studio. Like if you're doing Airplane, you gotta get. How do you get Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to do his cameo?
Well, everybody wants to be in a movie. So and the straight characters like Robert Stack, they don't get a chance to do comedies. Lloyd Bridges didn't really do and this is a silly, silly comedy, and I think it appealed to them. Peter Graves initially didn't like the script. I mean, he thought it was in really poor taste because we had him playing a funny pedophile pilot. But our executive producer had him in for a meeting, and he thought we were these must have been these long-haired, drug-crazed lunatics. But we were fairly nice boys from Wisconsin, and I think he figured, okay, he'll sign on to do it, and he was very happy that he did. And Robert Stack too. Leslie Nielsen was for it in the beginning. He told his agent, "Don't tell them this, but I would pay them to do this movie," after he read the script.
Uh, and I guess that's your most famous collaboration. This is always a question. You're writing the jokes, but you're not doing the delivery. You got
No,
to
we don't.
work with
Yeah,
somebody. You got to make sure that your actor gets what you're trying to do, and that he, so to speak, that he doesn't try to take over. On the other hand, he has to
well,
do the job right to be funny. Uh,
that's why
all the
that's
humor
why
is at his expense. How did this relationship develop with
well, that's
Leslie?
why directing is so important. I have to direct my movies. I can't write something and then hand it off to Joe Schmo. It's and we knew that after we did Kentucky Fried Movie. John Landis directed it, did a great job, but I think we, and we made a lot of suggestions. He took most of them. We wanted to get our way 100% of the time. So And especially with Airplane, it was a completely new kind of genre that we invented, new kind of humor. The actors, you have to sit on the actors and make them absolutely not try to be funny because
Yeah,
actors think, oh, we're in a comedy, we got to wink, we got to be funny.
yeah.
And so that's why we had to direct it. And so Paramount initially wanted to hire a real director. We were just three kids. They called us the boys, and but we held out, and they finally relented. They said, "You can direct, but we have the right to fire you after 2 weeks." And we said, "Okay, great."
You're on probation.
And the first day though, we shot the scene between Leslie and Robert Hayes, where Robert Hayes says, "Shirley, you can't be serious," and Leslie says, "I am serious, and don't call me Shirley." And we heard the room at the studio where they were showing all the executives the dailies. They fell on the floor laughing. They loved it, and so Jeff Katzenberg, the vice president of the studio, called us up and said, "Don't worry, you're not going to be fired."
So there, that's did you do
They
that
got
on purpose? You thought that start with this going
Yes,
strong?
we didn't think of that, but our producer John Davison thought of doing that. Very smart. We're not so smart, but our producer was.
And then on the other hand, then you do Top Secret and you go through all of these genres from maybe Elvis movies, musical, all the way through World War II, Nazis, and in this case, it's
Yeah,
the
that
Iron Curtain as well. How did you do that? How did you come up with the story, the genres? And on the other
well,
hand, how did you work with Val Kilmer, who Val died last year, was such a
yeah.
remarkable talent, and this was not a lot of people get the debut when they're going to become a star. That is so funny. That is a comedy. It's not a glamorous role. If it's anything, it's even self-effacing, goofy.
It's subtle, and after Airplane, we couldn't readily find a 0 hour. So we decided to combine two genres that we thought would be ripe for spoofing and were taken very seriously, Elvis movies and World War II spy movies. And and so we combined and we wrote the script to Top Secret, and Paramount loved the script. And we cast Val Kilmer, who we found in New York. We went to a play called Slab Boys, which also starred Kevin Bacon and Sean Penn.
Wow.
And we thought Val would be. We saw something in Val. We thought this kid's going to be good, and he could be both serious and funny. So and it was, the movie turned out, really pretty much like we thought. And we learned a lot of good lessons from that, from Top Secret. And it probably has the funniest jokes that we of all of our movies
Yeah,
in
it has a
were
kind
were
of
all in Top Secret.
freedom ranging through cinema from the underwater
Yeah,
Western
the underwater
saloon
and
fight, which is
and the back
amazing,
and
like everything is in slow-mo, to
right.
the scene that makes me think of David Lynch, the shop scene where everything is played backwards. It's
It's
like
backwards. Yeah, no, that thing was out there. That movie was on another planet. But I think we learned from Top Secret that as funny as a movie can be, the most important thing is to give your leading characters something that they can bite into, some kind of character progression that will resolve in the third act. So I think we learned from Top Secret.
that one, it's not the most famous one, but it's the one I think is the best, the one I really like the most.
I I hear
And
that a lot. Yeah.
so I'm glad to hear that it's uh and partly it's because it showcases the exuberance of the form that you can jump from this genre to that genre, that as you cut from sketch to sketch or scene to scene you can do something that seems completely
Yeah,
crazy.
we combined. People didn't know if it was present day because they were the East Germans
Yes.
or World War II, and it was in that kind of nether world.
And of course, because everybody's been to the movies, everybody recognizes, even if it's underwater, it's supposed to be a Western saloon, or yeah, like
Yeah.
it's Germany, but it's the Nazis, but it's World War II, but it's a Cold War thriller. You somehow can tell all of these things and figure out, are they supposed to be together? Are they not supposed to be together? The it somehow seems like like the Kentucky Fried Movie, that at some point everybody already knows about the movies. At this point, they
Yeah.
would like to see uh, how they meld into one another, or a kind of society that where people can recognize all of these rat-tat-tat, very funny, very quick jokes, very quick changes, unexplained changes of scenery, etc. Everybody's used to it. It's sort of like watching TV for half the day, or watching I guess it used to be MTV, and every 4 minutes there's a different fantasy that does a different genre, but there's a kind of through line when you're actually writing a comedy with characters. Something about that seems like a reflection on a media society, on a society where people get what they think is admirable, but maybe it's too self-serious and then you can make fun of it. They get all of that from the movies, from the TV. They don't get it from somewhere else.
Right. I think we were pointing out like the story of the little boy in the emperor's new clothes. The little boy says the emperor has no clothes. And I think that was our role in, watching all these very serious, hard-hitting movies. And movies are pretty silly, really, when you think of it. So, and we used to just watch them and redub them with our own voices. Pretty much how Airplane started.
And I guess as you mentioned, Woody Allen, he also did that with What's Up, Tiger Lily, and tried to make fun of
Yeah, he did a redubbing, and our first
Asian.
thought with Zero Hour is that we could redub it. And but then that lasted for about a day, and then we thought, wait a minute, why don't we just recast this movie and do it totally serious and then do all our jokes? And that was the breakthrough, I think.
So that's a kind of funny thing. If you have a comedic mind, you can look at a serious movie and realize that if you just draw out a scene, or if you just cut something out of it, all of a sudden it becomes ridiculous. That
Yeah, and
it's very easy when somebody takes a very graceful, very beautiful dance to throw a banana peel in his way, and now we have a comedy.
exactly. And then you get the laugh. And I think we learned to get the laugh when we were in our boring high school classes. And we would I would say stuff and do stuff just to get laughs in the class. And often I had to be punished for it, but it was worth it.
Yeah, that's somehow part of it. That there's a streak of making fun of authority and trying to escape boundaries that's obvious in comedy, but perhaps especially in something so lively and fast-paced as your comedies were.
Right. And
And
we were bored in high school, just had to sit in a classroom and it's just, looking at your watch trying to figure out when this was going to end. So we just had to entertain ourselves. And sometimes the teachers actually enjoyed it.
they're people too, right? They're not just teachers. And I guess that too, the difference between being a person and having a job, or like, the authority of a teacher. To some extent, that too is playing a role, and if you become aware of it, you can subvert it comically.
Yeah, one teacher, my brother Jerry tells a story. He's in high school, and something that he said out in class gets a laugh. And the teacher said, Zucker, someday I'm sure I'll have to pay to see you, but for now, shut up. And
Truer
that
words.
actually happened. I'm so proud of Jerry for that. Yeah.
Oh, that's very good. And so let me ask about the your Ruthless People. This now you're directing, you're established artist, but you didn't write. You're not in control of the production. Now you're just professionals hired for this thing. How did it happen? How did you get along with Danny DeVito and Betty
Oh,
Midler?
well, after Top Secret, we were casting about for, something to do, and we didn't have any original ideas at the time. I get some original ideas every couple of years, and believe me, they've been great. But this time in 19, I guess it was 19, 86. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Jeff Katzenberg, who was had at that time gone to Disney with Michael Eisner, called up and says, "I'm going to send you a script. It's great. I want you guys to direct it." And I think we probably were open to doing another genre. We had done spoof, and we wanted to do some a comedy with real, funny actors. So I read the script. I thought it was great. I called Jerry and Jim. I said, "We got to do this. This is amazing." And a script written by Dale Launer, who's a fabulous writer. And I think we looked at a number of actors and we decided on Danny and Bette Midler and Judge Reinhold and Helen Slater, which they were great. Everybody was really just perfect in that movie.
Yes, indeed. And then, all of these things like the cameo or the small role Bill Pullman has, another
Bill
great.
Pullman, that's right.
And it's
He
just
came in to read for the part with that crazy hair, which was growing
yes,
out by the roots.
very
And
much
we
of the
said,
80s.
not only this is the guy, because he seemed so goofy, and I don't think he was trying to be goofy, but he just looked like that, like a goofball from the hair. So we
Yeah.
said, keep the hair exactly like it is. We want that guy. And he was great. And Anita Morris was a great foil also. It was a fun movie to cast, and it was just a big hit. So we had a big hit in a genre that wasn't spoof, but I really wanted to go back to spoof, and my brother Jerry wanted to do something really different, so he did Ghost, and that was a big hit. And Jim did, spoof on Top Gun, which was Hot Shots.
Yep.
Uh, did it with Pat
Yeah.
Proft, and those guys, they all know what they're doing, and those movies were very successful.
Yeah. The and on Ruthless People, you also had the great cinematographer, which is rare in a comedy, Jan de Bont, who went on to work with
Yes,
Tiernan,
before he
My Eyes,
directed
and
all
The
those
Hunt for Red
movies.
October, and all of these incredibly beautifully shot movies. But
And also, Jan de Bont was the hardest working DP I've ever worked with because he once we started doing once we started doing the scene, he wouldn't sit back. He was there. If he wasn't on the camera, he was there adjusting stuff, and he never stopped working.
yeah,
So he was a very impressive guy.
the so then I guess we could get to the most famous, the series Naked Gun.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
uh,
So
how did you think of turning this into a story? Did you think about making more of it, or with every
well,
success you just wrote a sequel? How?
we we did Police Squad, which was
Yeah.
basically the Naked Gun, and it was a flop on TV because it's just our stuff isn't made for TV. It's a small screen, you can't see the background. It's people don't pay attention. And the head of ABC at the time, Tony Thermopoulos, said to a group of reporters, Police Squad didn't work because you had to watch it, and he was right. So, so then we did Top Secret and Ruthless People, and I wanted to go back and do uh, Police Squad as a movie because by that time I learned how to do a character, and so we gave Leslie Nielsen a love interest, Priscilla Presley, and we had the other people in the Police Squad, but it became the Naked Gun, and that was huge. That the first Naked Gun, Variety did a recent poll of 100 comedy movies, the top 100 comedy movies of all time. Naked Gun was number one. So that was great. And then we did a sequel, Two and a Half, which I also directed. And then the third one I didn't direct, and that was still a success. But not like the first two. But I'm done with something after two of them. That's why our when Pat and Mike and I wanted to do Naked Gun 4, we didn't want to do the same old junk in an LA cop station. We set it in as a international spy thriller,
Yeah.
a la uh, uh, Mission Impossible, Bond, Born Identity, that stuff. And that's what it was. The script was great. And Paramount liked it, but then Seth MacFarlane came in and took the franchise and wanted to do the same old junk. So that's what you got. And which was a good thing for me because it inspired me to do Master Crash so I can teach people how not to do junk.
Yeah. Uh, so I think these are the things that people remember, and to some extent, your comedies have a generational quality that this is the sort of
Well,
stuff a father is looking forward to show to his 10-year-old
I,
son and
and
so on.
and that's a great thing because most of them are timeless. I mean, you can still watch basketball, you can still watch The Naked Guns or Airplane, and they're still funny. And there are very few topical references. So we don't, yeah, we just don't, we try to stay away from those. And we want to make these movies so they become classics. I mean, that's really not what that's not on the front burner, but we do avoid the topical stuff.
And by the time you were doing these three Naked Gun movies, you had a good decade of experience under your belt. At this point, did you already feel that you've got control of script, of character as a director? That it's also, as you were saying, it's supposed to be funny,
Yeah,
but nobody's
we
supposed to act like it's funny. You're supposed
well,
to be as serious as you would be in a drama when you're producing it.
yeah, we learned a lot, and we learned also that the jokes are easy for us. I have Pat Proft and Mike McManus writing for me, and the movie that Seth MacFarlane came in and replaced, our script was set in the international spy thing. We retitled that Counterintelligence, spelled with one L and a J, and we still want to do that. And so I want to do that after I do my next movie, which I'm casting right now, which is a film noir thriller uh, called The Star of Malta.
Yeah. So first of all, tell us about that. It seems like well,
Okay, so
let me not even give away from the
no,
synopsis.
it's okay. We
Tell,
actually
tell,
found an amazing movie which was shot in 1945, which was called Detour. And
okay, yeah,
Detour had the basic plot. It's a
yeah, yeah,
classic
yeah.
noir,
Yes,
but
very
but
low
it
budget, right? Yeah,
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 low
very,
budget,
very
so
short.
cheap. I think it's my feeling that they probably ran out of money and couldn't
Yeah,
afford to shoot a third act. So Pat and Mike and I worked on it's amazing. It's about a guy who kills people by accident.
exactly.
So it's
Inadvertently, one catastrophe after another.
yeah,
Very
one death
background.
after another, and it's great. And but the thing about Star of Malta is that we put story and characters above the jokes. And really, it's a step up from the Naked Guns or from Basketball or Top Secret in that it's an entire movie where you really want to follow the story. The story means something. And that's why I'm really excited about doing that. And we're looking for the our leading man now.
Well, let's try and do a comparison of that. Well, you said that some movies like Ruthless People, the producer brings to you, and if it's somebody like Katzenberg, who really knows his stuff, right? One of
Yeah.
the major figures in the industry. What was it like working with producers, dealing with the studios back then, and what is it like now when you're trying to produce this stuff?
Oh, well, back then we had they were geniuses, I think. And they all went on to run their own studios. Every executives, and I don't know if I named them before, but it was Michael Eisner,
Yep.
Barry Diller, Jeff Katzenberg, Frank Mancuso, Don Steele. It was They were all wonderful. And what happened was they made the movie better. Now you contrast that with today's Paramount executives who we presented them with a wonderful script and they made it worse. Not our script, but they hired people who didn't know the rules, and it was and it ended the franchise. So that's too bad. But I'll start a new franchise. But I don't want to complain. I just that's Hollywood. That's what
So
happened.
the producers in the 80s, they knew their comedy. They realized what you're
Well,
trying
it's
to,
not the producers, it's the executives. I mean,
or yeah, exactly, the
we had
studio
our own
executives.
producer, Bob Weiss, and they didn't necessarily know comedy, but they knew they could appreciate it. They knew
Yeah.
the script was funny. I think, as I explained before, that they were surprised at when we actually showed that first day's dailies.
Mhm.
And it surprises me that they didn't really get it from what we pitched and what the script was, how it was going to be done. And that's why it was important for us to direct it. And but by that time, even by airplane, we had been in the business for 10 years already, and we knew what we were doing. You watch Airplane, it's still good today.
Yeah.
All the actors take it seriously, and it's not cheap gags.
Yeah,
And
it's a
but
production.
today's
You wouldn't
executive,
tell that it's a first
yeah.
time effort.
But for some reason, but I think Paramount was bought, and they cleared out some of those executives who
Yeah.
were
They're,
responsible
they're
for.
right. I mean,
Yeah,
we'll see what is
I
happening,
think
but
the Ellison took over. Anyways, I don't
exactly.
know how many executives are still in it, but they did acquire the scary movie franchise.
Yeah.
And in a moment of inspiration, the Paramount executives have given the franchise to the original creators, which is wonderful.
Yeah,
And
that
so,
didn't used to
uh,
happen, but
I,
it's happening more often now.
well, I don't
Just
know.
like
I don't know why
going
they
back,
did this,
trying to
but
make it's like Tom Cruise
I mean,
making
usually
the Top Gun
the
movie all over again.
yeah. Oh well, the Top Gun movie was brilliant. Tom Cruise movies are great, and Top Gun Maverick was uh, an inspired, big studio, big budget movie. So I'm not saying everything's bad. This big studios still come up with good material,
Well, yeah, but it's the same Tom
but
Cruise.
not comedy.
You
They
can't come
can't
up
do
with another
comedy.
Tom Cruise. You can only give it back
No,
to
well,
him.
that may be ending. I don't know.
The
Tom Cruise is a brilliant talent, probably the biggest movie star who's ever lived.
so
So that's all I can say about it.
and
Tom
and
Cruise.
that somehow the in a way the glamorous types have survived the change of generations and technology.
Yes,
It's much better than
the,
comedy. Why is that?
right. Oh, uh, you have guys like Harrison Ford, Steven Spielberg, uh, who's the guy who did Titanic?
Jim Cameron.
James
Yeah.
Cameron. These guys, these are blue chip talents. I mean, there's no mystery about it. And they no one bats 1,000. They haven't been successful every time out. Well, actually, Cameron has, I
Yes,
think.
that's right.
But
There's,
you know, and but a smart studio executives, a smart executive will realize that if just because you pass age 50, talent doesn't leave. So certainly, I think the Wayans are maybe over 50, but someone at Paramount got smart and said, okay, these guys were talented. They still are. They can still do it. So I hope it's a big hit.
here's hoping. So your
Yeah, just hoping
podcast.
because I think it'll bring people back to the theaters. It's like, hey, we went to the theater, saw a comedy and laughed and went away happy. So that's why I'm really, really, I hope I mean, the trailer certainly is funny.
It seems like the comedy movie business was replaced by stand-up comedy, and especially
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
including very big stand-up acts. Kevin Hart, I guess, is the most famous guy, and then he starts making
Oh yeah,
movies, and the movies are funny
we
as
gave,
well. But it's on
yeah,
the
we,
back
we
of
started,
the stand-up comedy, not on the back of script writing or on
right.
the movie making process. Another
Kevin Hart
lovely,
has.
talented guy, Nate Bargatze, he's also going from stand-up comedy to add movie making to his career. Let's
Oh,
see how it
and
works. But,
there's another brilliant comic stand-up named Jack Whitehall,
okay,
and I think he's going to go far. He makes me laugh.
okay.
And he's an
So
English comic, so yeah, I'd love to put him in a movie.
Yeah, I think as I was suggesting, probably that's the major avenue now since stand-up comedy is so close to social media. It's so easy to get the clip, to get a
Right.
1 minute
Yeah.
joke, 5 minute story, and it goes viral on social media. In a certain sense, it's like the same proof of concept you were saying. They're just watching the dailies. We just did this one scene, and we sold them on that something like the
Yeah.
same way to prove that there's an audience, that there's a joke there, that this could go places.
Yeah. And I think it may be a good plan to start with a comic actor, and then he's also got to be leading man handsome, and he's got to be, but stand-up comics know where the joke is. So even though I don't need somebody to be funny, all of our characters are really take themselves seriously. But like Leslie Nielsen, Leslie somehow really had an instinct for where the joke was. But as what happened, we did three movies, three Naked Gun movies with Leslie Nielsen, and it was funny and fresh idea at that time that he was an old guy
Yeah,
and then he was in a bunch of other movies at the time, and then that joke wore itself out,
yeah, obviously you
and
can't do it
and you
forever.
you know and the thing is, in 2025 you can't replace Leslie Nielsen, and that's what they try to do. Don't get me started.
Yeah, yeah. Wasn't a fan either. Star of Malta is one project, but you also told me you're producing something with Amazon in Germany, Oktoberfest,
Yes.
the beer festival. Tell
So
us
yeah,
about this.
I was at the Berlinale 2 years ago, and we met these great people, these producers, that German producers, and also the head of Amazon, and they were interested in doing what they were calling, let's do a German gun, but I knew that, oh, geez, trying to do a naked gun, it's really impossible unless I write it myself and I direct it, because otherwise you come up with, what they came up with for the latest Naked Gun. So I convinced them to do more of a straight ahead comedic farce, and again, starting with character, and the audience concentrates on this a character development. You present someone with a problem, you get them up a tree, throw stones at them, it's all the Jerry Zucker plan. So, and they said that was good, and they approved an outline that we did, and we wrote the script, and they're reading it now. The producers love it, so that's where we are. We're waiting for Amazon to, you know, pass their judgment on it.
Here's hoping. We're not gonna
Yeah.
talk
Well,
about it so much so that we jinx it, but here's hoping that a new comedy comes out, and I guess you'll be going to Germany to work on it.
I would love to, and it's going to be done in German. But I think we could actually remake it in English. It's that good of a script.
The Nowadays shouldn't be difficult.
Yeah.
That too, that it's an
Or
Amazon
we could do
project.
or we could do one take of every scene in English, because everybody in Germany that we met spoke perfect English. I
Yeah,
mean, they all speak English.
yes, they do. The Because they lost the war and we don't speak German.
Yeah, I don't remind them of that, but yeah.
And so That was something that was done in the 50s, in the 60s in European movies, that they would do it in multiple languages because there were
Oh,
international.
I didn't know that. Okay.
So
I'll remind them of that. Yes.
there's another one of these old funny things from the movie industry. Um, or international productions where there's an American star
Yeah.
like Burt Lancaster, but then there are Europeans of three different nations, and then half of them are dubbed at least. And yeah, a lot of comic potential actually in movie making, as of course you know better than anybody else. What other
Yeah.
projects are you working on, David?
I've got Star of Malta, which I talked about. I've got Oktoberfest and Master Crash. Those are I mean, that's enough for me. And we also have Counterintelligence, which
Yeah.
was used to be the Naked Gun 4. That's still a great movie. We'll create another new franchise for, whoever does that, but that's a higher budget, so it's not going to be done right away.
The so how has you've been in the business 50 years. What do you see about the production process, about the, as you're saying, writing the outline, writing the script, dealing with the producers?
That
What's
hasn't changed. Nothing's changed. I mean, we write a script, but they have to get, the executives have to be smart enough to task the right people who know what they're doing to write the script. And so these people who are producing Oktoberfest are smart people, and they left it to us to do this movie. And so far, the process has worked really well.
the that's reassuring because as we were talking about before recorded, as we've said on the show, that's somehow it's become difficult to produce and sell comedies, even though people are no less inclined to laugh. It seems like
Well,
there are
right. No,
problems on the
it's
production side. The demand is there, the supply isn't there.
right. Well, everybody has to figure out what the budget is for Star Malta. I think we have a budget of from 12 to 15
Hmm.
million, and we're raising it independently. And at that price point, they'll get it back.
Yeah.
You just, you get it back from a number of, international sales, streaming, everything, US box office. So I think we're already doing it, so that's going to work, and I'll be able to do a movie.
And to what extent is there comedy in Star of Malta? To what extent are
Oh,
you
it's
playing?
a total comedy. It's
Right.
just
So you're turning the
it's
noir,
comedy
the
with the
new
pace of
noir into
Airplane,
this very
and
dark
then
comedy.
no, no, it's not even dark
So
comedy. It's
you'd
just
say
straight up.
you're playing the accidental strangulation for
Yeah,
laughs.
I guess
Okay.
that's dark. I
No,
think
I mean
strangulation
I
and
haven't
death
seen
are
it
funny.
naked,
So yeah.
but when you read the story and then accidentally he strangles her, you know, uh,
Yeah, if you remember in Detour that he accidentally strangled someone, but instead it's amazing. Yeah, yeah, and
yeah,
he keeps strangling people right to the la till the last joke of the movie. I don't want to give it away. Yeah.
yeah. The so the that's all on the movie making and the movie teaching side, but you're also getting into the podcast business.
Oh yeah, we have a podcast called Naked Comedy. So, and we're banking episodes now, and we'll be releasing it soon.
Hmm.
So, yeah, and that's been really exciting. Really, it's teaching it's a part of Master Crash, and we have people who have signed up for Master Crash live while we do these podcasts, and so they ask questions.
Hmm. Okay.
So I think that's kind of unique.
And that'll
And that's
be, yeah, as you were saying, part of your teaching efforts, trying to bring
You're
back
right.
the great actors, producers, writers, directors, and talk comedy, talk the work.
Right. And I love to answer the questions, and the students have great questions. And if you go to college or film school, you don't necessarily get the right answers from these professors who, haven't been through it. And I'm teaching from not only from my successes, but from the failures I've had. So, and I one thing I'm stressing is don't blame other people. Somehow this came back to me. I screwed up in some way when something wasn't a success. And so I think I can really help people and myself do better in the future. We were in the class, we were talking about somebody was saying how they loved that joke in Scary Movie 3 of the state trooper with the hat, and the hat kept getting bigger and bigger. And there was a joke, and finally she was trying get, sandwich yourself, squeeze yourself into the car because the hat was so big. And then the last shot was the car driving off, and it was just a hat with wheels, and it didn't get a laugh. So we had to cut it. And here, 30 years later or whatever it is, I figured out why. And it's because, and it's one of the things I teach is that some jokes have to be put in the background. So what I should have done is put Charlie Sheen in the foreground, like even just thinking about what all the weird stuff. And in the background, this hat drives off. I wish I had that one back to do over.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's
Yeah.
a
But
very good.
this is very specific stuff that, now I will also think about, anything in the future that I do that needs to be backgrounded. Uh like the woman's
If it's
legs
in
in
the
the stirrups.
background, it's comedy. If it's in the foreground, that's called surrealism.
I don't know, I don't know what all these terms mean, but I just know how the best I've figured out the best way to make the jokes. And that's one thing. Even the joke at the end of Naked Gun, where OJ goes down the steps in the wheelchair and he goes flying, even that's backgrounded. So, we didn't want we want to tell the audience you're not supposed to be looking at that. You're supposed to look at Priscilla saying, "Oh, Frank, everyone should have a friend like you," and they leave. And that makes the joke. I mean, it probably still would have been funny, but it makes the joke 50% funnier. Well, maybe 20%. I don't know.
So yeah, that's maybe a good lesson to end the discussion on that there's quite a need for subtlety that goes against the desire, as you're saying. You start out as a kid, you think you're clever, you think you're funny, you want the attention, you want the laughs, you want the excitement, you want to steal the scene, run away with the show. But then you learn it would be better to be discreet, to be subtle, to put it in the
It's better.
background, to let the audience
Not
be surprised by
not
it. And
not many people accuse me of being subtle, but it is a part of it.
but that's what you're talking about here, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's there the and perhaps that too, your self-awareness. You're teaching this thing because you're learning from what you've done, and
I've learned from what I've done,
from,
and
as
that
you're
yeah,
saying, even from mistakes, you
that hat thing, gee, I wish I had that back.
the now
Now, 30
obviously.
years later, I know how to do it right.
Uh, then this would be like saying, like, at the end of a comedy you used to get the bloopers. You talking about your bloopers here is the end of our comic conversation, and
Yeah, but maybe,
wrap it up nicely with a bow.
I'd love to, using AI, maybe reshoot that and put it in, and they could
Eminently
put
doable, and again,
it's
that's going to be
we get
something that you
Charlie
can try
Sheen
and work out
and
into
put
your master crash use of
yeah,
AI for
yeah,
designing
we
sketchy
could just
scenes, jokes.
do everything. Hat on wheels in the background.
Um, all right, David. Thanks so much for the conversation. It's
Sure.
very glad to I'm very glad to do this. It's a rare chance to say. I grew up watching your movies, all of these very funny things, and discovering how far back they go into Hollywood genre history. And on the other hand, how you were inspired by comedians going back to the Marx Brothers, which I also love tremendously, and who are
Yeah.
still incredibly funny a century on
We were
almost. That is.
we were big fans of the Marx Brothers. My brother and I were, but not Jim Abrams. In the book, in Surely You Can't Be Serious, he said no. He finally told us he never liked the Marx Brothers. So,
Wow.
so
Oh,
yeah, it was funny.
it's also very fun. Ah, and of course, everybody should go look forward to your Star of Malta and Oktoberfest, but also whoever is interested in comedy, since there's so much opportunity now. As you said, you started out, you got to get the tape decks. Now you can just use your iPhone and try and
Right,
get something funny going with a couple of friends, like
right.
you
You
did.
can you can shoot stuff
But you could
yourself. Yeah,
learn as you could learn as you're doing it. People could get on Master Crash and try to perfect or begin at least in the craft, figure out
right.
how you get control of what you think is funny.
Oh, it's all possible. It can be done. I have a plaque in my office that says it can be done.
It's the right attitude.
All
So
right.
that's how a producer is supposed to think. Anything
Yeah.
they ask for, it can be
If I ever do any thinking at all, that's how I'm supposed to think. Yes.
All right, David. All the best until next time, which I guess will be when your movie hits theaters and
Oh, that's right.
I get
We'll
a chance to sing your
do
praise.
it again. Then I want to, we'll talk again. Thanks a lot.
All the best. Bye bye.